GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Hello, Michael Fetter Nathansky, and you're the director of Every You, Every Me. The first question I want to ask you about this film is that it's very strange that there is a film right now in India, a Tamil film called Lover, which has the same arc about people who were in love and are now falling out of love.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
What's the title?
Lover.
Lover. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, but I mean, it's a very different kind of movie. But that arc was kind of
Yeah.
playing on my mind. Now this kind of a couple that's was in love and now they're falling out of love. This can be set against any backdrop, right? But you like to set your films against working class backdrops. Like Gabi was against a construction backdrop. This is against a coal mining kind of backdrop. Why do you do this? Right.
Yeah, there are several reasons for that. I mean, I come from Cologne and we shot the film in the surroundings from Cologne. So it's like a bit of my memories of my childhood. And I knew always I wanted to go there because I live now in Berlin and to like rediscover this region because it's very just amazing to see these big power plants that are visible from everywhere. It's actually just like a village on a countryside, but then there are these huge power plants. And as in film, we have, on one part, we have this big love, but we also have this work, which is a very important thing for all the people living there, because I think we all define ourselves through the things we love and through what we work.
Yeah.
And if both things are questioned so deeply, and that's happening right now in the region, what remains of us? How does our gaze, change also because of that?
Right.
And that's why I found that very interesting. And at the same time, for me, I also feel that films, it should be more normal to make it there. Always when we are in the bourgeois world, it's like the normal thing, and the other thing is like the special thing. Why isn't that also the normal thing?
Yeah. The other not normal thing that you do is okay, I don't want to spoil this for the viewers, but the way you introduce your leading man, it's not a man. I'm struggling to phrase
I'm
this
struggling
question.
too.
Yeah,
We are here together.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that it seems like the situation is very ordinary. A woman is going to see her husband, but the way you show it, it's extraordinary. There's something magical about it. How did this idea of taking this story to that zone come to you?
I think for me, love has something very magical. And I think also this idea of seeing different characters in somebody is something magical. And it's also, a sign of beauty, but also the ability to be open to the world,
Yeah.
to see more, are you really in this moment?
Yeah.
At the same time, when I write, and that's now a very personal reason, I want to play. I want to, I treat myself a little bit like an actor. And I think it's an illusion to think that we actually only see us, as how we see us right now.
Yeah.
We see much more. And I wanted to give an option. Just the film is an invitation to think about it. And
Yeah.
it's one invitation, this role that you nearly mentioned. And there are a lot of other versions, of course. And there are much more that could be shown that we didn't show, of course.
No, but it's interesting because what you're saying is basically that we know conceptually that, like, for example, you or me, there's a man in us. We are men, but there's also one part of us that's feminine. There's one part of us that's childlike. There's one part of us that's maybe brutal and animalistic. All these things, right? I'm like depending on each person's personality. And to kind of see that actually come to life as those different personalities. Again, I hope I'm not spoiling too much.
No,
but,
it's okay.
That's a very unique idea, because the idea, when you think of it, is not new, but to show it is new. And I think that's what was very interesting.
Yeah, and I think the idea that it's her perspective, it's her gaze, it's the way she sees him. And at the end, all these characters are saying, even more about her than about him.
Yeah.
You know, it's because it's about her ability to see him that way.
Right.
Other people maybe would see something else in him, but it's her perspective. And I think that was also while developing the script and writing it and working with everybody in the team, the most important thing. Actually, she's the core of the film.
Right. So what made you say, I want to show this from her point of view?
Yeah, actually, I had the idea to play with different characters already for a long time, but it felt like it felt like didn't know why to write it. It was like, okay, then you could make more roles and more roles and more roles, but I needed a core in it. And then there was also a situation in my life, or sometimes there are situations in my life where I see people that are very close to me that I feel actually great love for, and for 1 second, it's just like I don't know them anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have any connection. Who are you actually? I don't know. It's like if it's a Alzheimer of very young age. I hope not. But it's something that really scared me at that moment. And I think always when I'm scared about something that I don't understand, it's something that I want to write about or discover through writing. And yeah, and in this film, well, the film is about finding these images or these roles, but also of losing them. And that's the moment when I felt, okay, this could be a film.
Right, but why her point of view is what I'm trying.
Why her? You mean instead of his?
Yes.
The real reason is just while writing, it sounds boring, but it just felt right at the moment while I was writing.
Yeah.
Now, when I see Anne Schwarz, if Anne Schwarz would be a man, then I would also have taken the man Anne Schwarz because it's just the way she plays. I didn't want to make a film about man or woman and say you are like that and you're like that. It's more about the relation of this concrete couple and how they are. I wanted to make it more universal in a sense. And I think that the male gaze is something that is more often portrayed, like how men look at women, and that's why I wanted to change it. It was important for me, but I say honestly, if Anne Schwarz would be a man, I would have taken her because of her acting skills.
Right, but that's something that's interesting because the only other film of yours that I've seen is Gabi, and that's also a female point of view.
Yeah,
and that
maybe it's a thing because in both things, women struggle with their ability to love and to understand it. And there is this idea, even though they are both persons who care, which is like a cliche of women, that they are always the mother who cares. There's also the cliche that they own love in a way and that they have to love, and when they are a mother, they know it all. And I think that's also what I was more interested in. You know, the fathers are more often the ones who leave the children and stuff, and that's something that I was interested in.
Yeah, and that's again breaking a cliche because like you said, why should women be burdened with all the being good all the time? In a way, like why should they be the nurturers, the thing? Why can't they look after themselves for a while? No, the reason I asked is because. For a second, somewhere in the film, I was wondering, she looks at him like this, and what if we see what he looks at her like?
Yeah.
Because I don't see that. That I was like curious now because now I'm like, okay, this is what she sees him as. Because after so many years of a relationship, it could be any relationship, it could be a marriage, it could be a school friend. Because sometimes we are not in touch with our school friends anymore. Not because of any reason, but because sometimes in school you're together, you all the time, you're so close, but then something happens and then you don't find anything in common anymore or whatever, like you see them a different way. So I was like, how is he seeing her?
Yeah, so that's a beautiful question. And I like, of course, I mean, that the film is also very focused on her. But of course, if the spectators start to think about what animal does or what does he see in her, that's the most beautiful thing that can happen for me from a filmmaker's perspective.
Right. Now, one of the things that obviously you just talked about the actors, the performances are so beautiful that how much of improvisation is there in these performances and how much of it is you saying, I want you to play it exactly this way? Because this is not a naturalistic zone. There's a little heightened kind of zone. So I would like to hear about that.
It's, again, very interesting how you describe it. Actually, how I see my work as a writer and director, I try to put everything I know in the script. And my me who's writing and my me who's directing, they're two different characters that don't understand each other too well sometimes. Actually, in the script, I already, of course, had this idea that he's portrayed through different characters. And then Nadine, of course, while acting, she had to adapt. So this was the biggest directing advice that I could give. And then it's much more Anne who goes there with all her heart and her intensity, improvisation, everything, to really show the love for each role of them.
Yeah.
And actually, I was very quiet while directing because I had wonderful actors, and that was in a way a dream because I didn't have to explain them a lot. I think the script was already, in this sense, very precise, or gave a lot of options. It was also an invitation for them to play, and then we just took it.
Right, right. But you know, there are some directors who say that they want to, Hitchcock being the most famous of them, that they want to control everything, right? Because they have a vision in their heads, and
Yeah.
you're also writing. So when you're writing, you're seeing a particular scenario, because this is the images in this film are so specific,
Yeah.
and the scenarios are so specific
Yeah.
that you know, sometimes it must be difficult to lose control and hand it over to another person and say, okay, my work is done.
Yeah.
Now you have to do the scene.
Yeah.
You know, because it's you that's going to carry the scene forward.
Yeah.
Do you find that easy as a writer and director to hand it over to an actor?
I don't find it easy, but in this case, as the performances were so touching, I don't know how to say it in any other way, I feel like you would be the dumbest person if you're not now open for that, and
Yeah.
if you follow that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that made it so easy.
Yeah.
Of course, it becomes different always, but then I think it's my like an obligation as a filmmaker to be open. And I come from writing and from making documentaries. So in that moment, I actually would like to improvise them everything and forget my script. That's what I meant. That's why my both me's are also fighting sometimes.
Right, right.
But of course, the film has also some moments which are more choreographical when we have the time changes, for example. And there, both things came together. Very emotional scenes where the characters have really feel like a freedom also, but also, of course, a technical challenge, no, to make it work all. That was nice, but it was also thrilling because the emotion is there. Now the camera has to, that's thrilling. I can't do too many films like that.
When talking about Gabi, I saw an interview of yours where you said that your influences ranged all the way from Woody Allen to the Darden brothers, and I was like, that's really, you know, two different zones of inspiration. What were your influences for this film?
Well, it's not that they're concrete films in that sense. It's actually, I started making films really watching all the Woody Allen films. So there's always something in there inspiring me in how I look at films and what films can do. I mean, Woody Allen has films where he also played with changes of characters or people going out to screen. You know them all.
The Purple Rose of Cairo.
The Purple Rose of Cairo, or Zelig, for example,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
he
yeah.
always
Yeah, the
adapts.
documentary,
Yeah,
where-
where
yeah.
the pseudo documentary where he adapts. That's
Yeah.
of course, I think somehow that inspired me in a way.
Yeah.
At film school, I studied in Babelsberg, here close to Berlin, and that's a film school that also has a focus on documentaries. And we had a lot of seminars where we talked about films of the Darden-Brüder or working class films. And I always was thrilled there by the performances. My mother comes from a family of farmers. My father comes from a family who was in Mexico, had a lot to do with languages. And I think these are also things that always follow me when I make films.
Nice.
My both parents in a way also.
Finally, I just have to ask you this. You know, it's a debate that never ends. But as a director, and because you mentioned Woody Allen, what is your stand about the art versus the artist? Do you know, because it's not a new debate, and Woody Allen didn't start it, but it's been forever. Wagner, you know, whoever it is, because it's like, you know, all these things have been going on. But where do you stand? Does the art, is it separate from the artist, or are they both?
That's a very, very good question. I don't really know. I'm also asking that to myself. I can just say that I'm, of course, lucky that I know those films, but I don't know if that's enough. Yeah, it's an important question, but
Yeah, no. So just to take it a little more, I do think that the art should be treated as its own thing because
Yeah.
it comes from the unconscious. Whereas, I mean, they shape it later, but the art itself comes from a very mysterious place.
Yeah, yeah.
And it may not even be from that person. But, you know, as we're talking about things like cancel culture and things like that, I sometimes wonder about, you know, that. So
I really don't want here to, because yeah, I should think more about it. I'm very honest, but I didn't. But I think in film, I do see a difference that film is not a one-man show.
Yeah.
It's not like one musician. Well, that's always not also a one-man
One
show, but
show.
it's a bit more on one person.
Yeah.
Film, there are so
Or
many
like a
people.
painter or something.
Yeah, there are so many people that made that film together. So I think, and that's also what for me is important. I made that film with so many people,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's something that I think is also important to take in account while thinking about this separation. But yeah, it's an important question, but I think I'm not the best person to give you a good answer for that.
No, but I think you did give me a good answer because, you know, film is a collaborative effort
Yeah.
and sometimes you just have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your film and for the interview. Thank you.
And thank you for your questions.
Thank you. GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand, presents Galata Plus at the Berlin Film Festival 2024.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.